Hello everyone and welcome back. In this video we are going to do a couple things. First, we are going to write our own middleware that's going to check if a user is authenticated. And then we're going to implement that middleware to hide the account page if the user is not authenticated. So as of right now, with our servers running, whether we are logged in or not, we can still go to /account and it loads. So even if I go to logout, now I'm logged out, and then I can still go to /account and it loads because we're not protecting this in any way. But obviously it's an account page, so you want to protect it and not allow unauthenticated people to sign in. Or what if this is like the admin console that you want to not allow regular users to access or things like that. So this is where authentication comes in. What we're going to do is we're going to write a function that's going to be our own middleware, and we're going to use it to redirect users to /login if they're not authenticated and they try to hit that route. So what we're going to do is down at the bottom, and if you're doing this in a real application, you're going to break it out into another file. But for us, for our practice, we're just going to do this down here at the bottom. We'll call this authentication middleware. And just to refresh everybody's memory, because we've talked about middleware, but I don't remember if we've gone super in-depth with it. Middleware is just any type of code that runs in between getting a request and acting on that request. So let's say we get a request to /logout, and if we wanted some middleware, we would do that middleware kind of in this section right here before we do our callback function. So run here, we get this request, run the middleware, and then run this. So authentication middleware is basically, we're just going to write a function. So this function needs to be, because we're putting it at the bottom, it needs to be a traditional function declaration instead of an arrow function. Because if you remember way back from our JavaScript, due to the way that arrow functions work is that you cannot reference them in your file before they are created. So we could put our authentication middleware up here at the top, but that's ugly. I don't like that. So I'm going to put it down here at the bottom, and in practice it doesn't matter because you're going to put it in a different file and then import it at the top. But for our practice, we're just going to go ahead and do it here. So let's make our function. Function, I'm going to call it isLoggedIn because it's going to check whether they're logged in. And then your middleware functions will take 3 arguments. We'll have 3 parameters: request, response, as you would expect, but then next. And that next is important because what's going to happen is whenever you call next as a method, it's going to continue the chain. And we'll talk about that more in just a second. So what we need to do here is we need to check, is the user logged in? And if so, if yes, continue. If not, redirect to /login. So first we're going to check is if the user is logged in. We're just going to use an if statement for that. If, and you can check this, request.isAuthenticated, called as a function. This is something that Passport gives us, and it does exactly what it sounds like it does. It just checks if the user is authenticated, and it either returns true or false based on if the user is authenticated. So if the user is authenticated, we want to return next. So if they're authenticated, check, we're done, next. Else, res.redirect to /login. So if yes, continue is going to go right here. If not, redirect to /login. And that's it. That's our middleware right there. It's done. All we have to do now is add that to the routes we want it added to. So we're calling it isLoggedIn, and I want to use that for the account page. Where's my account page? Here we go. The way this works is you simply add it in the little chain here as a second parameter before your callback function. And you can add as many of these as you would like. If you had one isLogin, you could have another one that says isAdmin maybe. You can make another one. You can make another one for anything else. So you can chain as many of these on there as you desire, as long as your callback function is the last thing. So what's going to happen now is that when we hit /account, it's going to run this middleware first, and it's going to do this stuff. It's going to check if the user's logged in, next, continue, and then it will continue to do this next thing. However, if the user is not logged in, it's going to break the chain and just redirect them to /login, and it's never actually going to hit the rest of this function. So let's go ahead and save and test it out. So our server has restarted. So let's go back to our index page and just do a hard refresh just because it's good to test. So right now our session should not work. We should be not logged in. So let's go to /account and it redirects us to the login page because we are not logged in. However, if I log in as test and log in, now I can get to the account page, even if I don't, even if I'm not redirected there. Even if I go to /account, it lets me in. But if I go to logout and then try to go back to /account, it will not let me get there until I log in. This is the power of middleware. It's super easy to implement. All of the complexity comes in whatever you're trying to do, but for the most part, it's very easy to implement middleware. That's something that Express does for us. So it's really cool how you can easily implement this advanced functionality with these frameworks that we're using. In this video, we created our own middleware right here. And what it does is it checks if a user is authenticated using the request.isAuthenticated method. This is created by Passport. We don't have this if we don't have Passport. And then we implemented that middleware into our account page. Notice, by the way, that this is not called as a function. We are not calling this like that. We are simply passing the name of the function, because this route will call it for us when it's the proper time. But if we actually go like that and call it, it will call it whenever this first starts, and you'll have a problem. So after we implemented that middleware, our users can no longer get to the account page unless they are logged in, because it breaks that chain, breaks the chain of callbacks or of middleware, whatever you want to call it, if they're not logged in. As of right now, we have a pretty decent understanding of the basics of Passport. There's a lot more advanced features and advanced functionality we could get into, but that's, again, kind of outside the scope of this course. I recommend you read the docs if you want to do more with Passport. It's really powerful. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do with it, but again, I don't want to be entirely overwhelming, so we're just going to kind of stick with the basics. In the next several videos, we're going to add Passport.js to our Yelp clone project. So we are done with this practice application, and we'll move on to adding it back to our Yelp clone. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'll be happy to help. Thanks.